Fukong Interactive, a Chinese company and current owner of RuneScape developer Jagex, is looking to restructure and, as a result, could be selling some or all of its stake in the studio. The sale is not set in stone. However, in a statement to PCGamesInsider, a Jagex representative said that its parent company had informed the Chinese financial market that Fukong Interactive is considering selling off some of its assets and is planning a major reorganization. The studio, which was purchased by Fukong Interactive at $300 million back in 2016, is potentially one of those assets up for a partial or full sale. A sale of assets is one of multiple routes Fukong Interactive has available as it restructures, said the statement, and, by making this initial statement to the market, Fukong can now begin exploring such options. While its parent company seems to be in a bit of a downturn, Jagex has had a strong couple of years, thanks to its efforts with RuneScape. As of last summer, the online game had generated a total over $1 billion in lifetime revenue since it got its start in 2001. PCGamesInsider notes that the company reported a 51% year-on-year increase in profit in 2018, recording a record $56.7 million for the year. Whatever the outcome of Fukong's restructure, Jagex continues to execute on our short-term and long-term strategies for the RuneScape franchise, reads the company's statement. Jagex has never been in better shape, and the year ahead will see further investment in the organization as we expand our talent base to create and deliver significant new content for our players. Build on our Jagex Partners third-party publishing initiative, in addition to increasing our presence in the mobile sector with RuneScape itself. As originally posted in the VR Devlog, my original plan for this week's post was to talk about portals. They play a prominent role in the game's narrative, and you interact with them quite a lot. They also proved quite challenging to implement in VR. Unfortunately, we are a few days behind on finishing them, so I decided to change gears. I still remember the first time I saw someone working the aptly named Houdini. I'd be damned if it did not look like black magic to me. Frankly, I thought he was some kind of genius that was using extremely complicated software to achieve the impossible. He was making a wooden bridge suspended with ropes. What made me stare off was that the longer he made the bridge, the more planks appeared on their own. For those who do not know, procedural models are models that can be easily modified by the user interface. So instead of modeling just one bridge, you do the work once and have access to infinite bridge variations, with no extra effort. The bridge I saw a couple of years ago by Feline Arts. My primary occupation in Anvil is programming. Until recently, I knew just enough about modeling to be able to communicate with the artists in the team. Over the holidays, I decided to give Houdini a try, and I was surprised by how easy it was to create procedural models with it. I would argue it is easier for programmers to use than it is for artists. I was instantly hooked and spent about a month trying to create the ultimate procedural column just for fun. Imagine how excited I was when Annia designed a level of risevrgame that required 3 piers standing next to each other in a small dock. We finally had an opportunity to test Houdini with our workflow. I asked Kostas for a plank so I could get started. I created a line with variable length and distribution of points and exposed these parameters to the user interface. In a few minutes, I had the following result. Drawing the line, Then I had but to instantiate a plank on each point, and I had suddenly turned into the dark wizard that made geometry appear out of nowhere. Hocus pocus. Planka kadabra. Of course, using only one single plank made a rather boring result. Next step was to spice things up a little by having Kostas model a couple more planks. I had Houdini go over each point, and randomly selected one of the 3 planks using each point's int as the seed. That worked, but since Houdini's random function is deterministic, plank 0 would be the same on all piers. That's why I exposed a random seed to the user interface. I added this seed to the previous one, making it possible to re-roll the dice at will. I also wanted the planks to change for piers of different lengths, so I added the length to the seed. Random is not always bad. Pretty varied already, right? What could we do to increase variety without creating additional planks? I know we could randomly rotate some of the planks 180 degrees on the y-axis. IMG, https, risevrgame.com WP content, applause, 2019 divided by 0.16-1. PNG, IMG, the 6 leftmost planks are the exact same. Risevrgame is about recently abandoned worlds empty of people. I doubt wooden structures close to the sea would stay at pristine condition without human maintenance. Kostas created 3 more planks, this time damaged, and I added them to the pool of available planks. Additionally, I exposed a damage property that would decide what percentage of the pier would be made of these new planks, moving the damage slider from 0 to 1. As you can see, we could not create piers in several states of decay. But what about totally broken planks? Why not add a few? Kostas created the 7th and final plank. This one was barely half the size of the rest. At first, I added it to the pool of damaged planks. The result was not very pleasing. Completely broken planks would either appear too much or too little. We needed more user control, so I decided it would be better to use different parameters specifically for these planks. One would decide what percentage of the pier would be made exclusively of these planks, and the other would be a random seed that would re-roll which planks were broken. This gave us enough control to find just the right amount of broken planks. Controlling broken planks. At this point, I was happy with the planks, and decided to move to other parts of the pier. The support beams were the most straightforward of the parts. I created a beam for each side of the pier that spanned its entire length. I added parameters for how close the beams would be together, how much A, D extrude from the pier, and their relative height from the planks. The support beams with the plank. At this point, I realized I was only one rotation away from making railroad tracks, 2 birds with 1 stone. Now that the main body was ready, it was time to move on to the poles that would keep it above water. Kostas had already created a simple pole model. I created 2 more lines with their own distribution and instantiated the pole on the points. Now, that looks like a pier. As you can see, we were getting closer to a usable asset. But still, it was obvious we needed more poles. Not only that, but we needed the middle poles to be different than those at the edges. Kostas went ahead and made a couple of wide poles for the edges of the pier and 3 distinct poles for the rest. For the first and last point of each line, I chose one of the wide poles randomly. For the rest, I chose one of the thin poles. Finally, I added a new random seed just for the poles, showing off pole distribution. Now that I had more variety on the poles, it was time to introduce some wear here as well. A similar damage parameter would decide how many of the same pose would not show at all, removing pose at random. Finally, we decided to give an option for the white pose to be missing as well. Now that the pier was almost done, I added some finishing touches to make it look even more unique. For one, I added random rotations to all pose. Then I added random scale ranges for both planks and pose. Breaking symmetry, randomizing the scale of the elements, helped make the pier look more organic. Then I added a random rotation to the planks on the x-axis to add some more variety. To make the broken planks more realistic, I had their broken part rotate towards the interior of the pier.